So I think yesterday what we discussed that let me open it again. Okay, so now let's just let's reiterate what we discussed right yesterday. So first of all, someone join. Okay, okay. So we understood the containers. What is a container? What is the difference between VM and container, right? And what is a container image? What was the problem with conventional server, and how the container is solving that problem, right? And second thing, what type of image we used, right? So base image and demons image. And I think what is the role of the Docker, right? To download the image, to run that image, right? And to publish that image or share that image. Okay. Now, next thing is what we are going to discuss, right? That is, let's understand from a perspective of, application can run in a container, but database can run in a container. What is your feelings? Can database can be run in a container inside a container? Yes, no. Okay. Now, as I showed yesterday, the container is meant for, it's a phoenix type of thing. Phoenix means it can die anytime, it can, you know, start anytime, right? So, if I talk about something, so in some big organization, what happened? So in some big organization, what happened, right? It Any organization is using OpenShift or Kubernetes, right? So assume that they are having 100 microservices, okay, and they are having lots of microservices and their databases also, right? And everything is running inside a container, right? So they have lots of host machine, so which can be assumed that there are 20 host machine, right? And each and every host machine, sorry, each and every service has multiple replicas. So 100 service, assume that 5 replicas always will be there, right? But due to some issue, due to some application issue, due to something, right? Container is the each and every replicas, 5 replicas should be there, but sometime one replicas got down, right? So there are 4 replicas, but their business is not getting impacted because when they are hosting their services, they are not directly giving you access to the container. There is some service artifact, right? Or some load balancer is there. That load balancer is routing traffic from one to means routing traffic from the client to any of the specified container. Okay. Now here the catch is, till you have one container running, your service will not die, right? Because there is one to serve your services. But when load is increasing, you can eventually increase your pod, increase your container number of container, number of instances, and it will be fine. That is very good example. But here the catch is, your application should be stateless, right? Your application should not have any state, right? Suppose I am requesting something, my request, first request I am doing something, right? And second request, when I'm requesting, it should not be dependent on the first request, because as a client, I don't know where the request would go. That second request might not go to the same container. But if some data already persisted in the or in memory, something inside that container, then second container would not know that what was there in the first call, right? Yes. So in that scenario, how you will make sure that your container means, but this is for the service. For the databases, the things is opposite, right? So you need to persist the state, right? You need to persist the data, राइट. मैंने एक माई एसक्यूएल का डेटाबेस एक कंटेनर को आप किया और थोड़ी टाइम बाद उसको डाउन कर दिया. जिस टाइम पे उसने चला उस टाइम पे जो डेटा था वो डेटा तो गायब हो जाएगा, राइट? यस. सो फिर क्या करोगे? सो लेट्स सी व्हाट आर द सॉल्यूशन इट्स हैविंग. सो मैं पहले क्या करूँगा, मैं डॉकर माई एसक्यूएल का पूल करता हूँ. ओके. So if you can see, my MySQL has been downloaded, right? Now I'll run that MySQL. To run the MySQL, if you go to the MySQL image, what it is mentioning that okay, Docker run. I need some username password, right? Username can be root, but password I need to just give in the environment variable. Okay. So where is that? Yeah. So this is the my SQL root password. This environment variable I need to provide while running the container. So what I'll do, docker run environment variable. So first it will run in the detached mode. Then in the environment variable, I'll give my password is equal to pwd. Okay. Then I will run the MySQL. Right. I'll give a name SQL1. Then I'll run the MySQL. Okay. Now my so if I do the docker ps, my container is running, right? Okay. Yes. First of all, let's first do the things that okay, container is running. This is my host machine, but how I can go inside that container? It's a valid point, right? How I can go inside that container? मेरे को एसक्यूएल के अंदर जाके वो एसक्यूएल वाला स्क्रिप्ट है जहाँ पे मैं क्वेरी लिख सकता हूँ, जहाँ जहाँ पे मैं कुछ कर सकता हूँ, राइट? सो how to go inside that container? So the Docker by default is giving there is some command. So using that command you can go inside the container. That is, if assume that MySQL is a container and it is allowing the bash shell. So basically by default MySQL allow that. Okay. So what you can do, you can just write Docker exec. I want to execute something hyphen interactive mode, right? IT. Then I will give the name of my SQL container, that is SQL1, right? Then I will type BSH. So if you can see, as a root I am inside that container, but I'm not inside that MySQL. So I need to give that username password. So I just type MySQL hyphen u. My username is root because I haven't mentioned anything. By default MySQL use the username as a root and hyphen p, right? If I type it, it will ask me that what is your password. So if I pwd, then it is giving me enter to the its bash shell. Can you see? welcome to MySQL monitor command with something your my connection ID is this server version. So MySQL command is run. Okay. Now what you can do, I can just see show databases. Show me all the databases what you have. So these are the databases. Can you see information schema, MySQL, performance schema, sys. Okay. Now I can create my new databases. Create database student. Done. Now if I again run the show databases, my databases is there, right? Student database is there. Now I can create a table inside the student database. Student, then I'll give ID, integer, name, sorry, int. Varchar 80. Okay. Node, oh sorry, no database selected. So I need to select the databases, create table, student, right? It is there. Now I can insert the data. Student values. I can give 1. I can give RAM. It is there. Now if I can select star from student, it is there, right? All the SQL operation we can do inside that MySQL container, but where it is keeping the data, it is inside that container, right? Correct. So if I exit, then if I exit, right, I'm exiting from MySQL, I'm exiting from that bash shell, I'm exiting. Now I can stop my container, docker stop sql1, गया, सब डेटा चला गया, nothing, right? So what is the solution now? Let me give you the solution. So Docker is having two solutions. One solution is like you can create a volume. Okay. After that, you can use that volume inside your any container. So volume, where the volume is created, volume is a separate artifact, right? Volume is not created, right, inside a container. Okay. Now there is another concept called mind, directory bound or directory mount, right? And the volume. Let me show you the example. So it is the server, right? So this is the server, right? If I do a ls, that means I am having in this server, right? There is no file is there. Now either I can create one directory, right? And whenever I'm going to run that SQL, I can give that location, that whenever you are running, you use this location to keep your data. So what will happen, the SQL MySQL will run inside a container, but the data the data what I'm giving the instruction that don't keep inside a container, keep in this directory. So when you die, no problem. If I ask some other MySQL container to the start, right, and use the same directory, it can read the data from there. Okay, let me show you the example. What I'll do, I'll create one directory. Okay, that is db store. Okay, so if I do ls db store, can you see? Okay, now what we'll do, I'll run the container and I'll ask the container, MySQL container, use this db store for your volume. Okay, so what I need to give, docker, right, I need to run -d. Okay, then -e, and I think, sorry, let me, yeah, so it is there. Only the thing what I'll add here, I'll ask him that use my volume db store, sorry, -v db store volume as, right, var dot db dot data. This is the folder which internally being used by MySQL inside a container. I am asking MySQL, okay, do one thing, use this db store. Okay, let's see what it does. Conflict, oh sorry. Container name is, okay. So now SQL2 is running. Docker ps, if I give, sorry, docker ps, SQL2 is running, right? Now let's do the same thing. Go inside the docker. Okay, docker exec it, then I need to give -it, then I need to give SQL2 bash. Okay, it doesn't have the student databases, right, but I will create the databases. I think, let me take a look if it can. I don't know if it is, no, it can. Okay, fine. I'll not type the data inside it. What I will do, I'll just delete that container, stop that container, and let's see. So okay, let me show you that database is created successfully. So if you can see, just a minute, Anjali is calling. Hi Anjali. अरे आज यार मेरा मोबाइल स्विच ऑफ हो गया था तो स्टार्ट नहीं हो पाया. अच्छा, मतलब आज सेशन हुआ ही नहीं अभी चल रहा है. आर यू एबल टू ज्वाइन? अभी ज्वाइन कर सकते हो कि ऑफिस चालू हो गया? मतलब ऑफिस चालू हो गया, मतलब जस्ट अभी उठी हूं, मेरी नींद ही नहीं खुली. मैंने आपको मिस कॉल देखा. Okay, no problem. So I'll record it. I'll share with you. Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Let's go back. अरे ये record हो गया. Okay. चलो. So I can see that student database, right? Now what I will do, I'll exit from here. Okay, I'll exit from here also. Then what I'll do, I will stop SQL2. ठीक है? ओके, नाउ मजे का बात यह है कि अभी मैं SQL3 अगर रन करूं with the same data store, can you see I'm not changing the DB store, right? If I run it, let's see what is happening. It is running, so I can just go inside that bash and I can give here MySQL right. Let me show the databases. What happened? Student database is not there. Hold on. Hold on, volume लिया नहीं. Just a minute. Give me some time. मैं इसको fix करता हूँ. It should have the student database. I think volume it is not taking the volume. Let me take a look. What is the MySQL command? MySQL Docker. Let me take a look how it is. What is the file I'm using that is not right? Where to store the data? Sorry. var.lib.mysql. I use db dot. So MySQL actually store the data in this location. So this is the MySQL reference location. I need to, you know, abide by this. Yeah. So student database I can see. I will go to exit, then I'll stop that container. Right. I'll run a new container that is SQL5. Then I'll go inside that SQL5 and just type MySQL. Can you see? And most interestingly, if I go inside that volume, let me take a look, or that volume, right? So I have in my local, I have DB store. So I'll go inside the DB store. If I do ls, it is not showing anything. Okay, not an issue. I think I am not able to see this. So this is the idea of that, how you can take one location, right, from your Docker host, and you can map that location to the MySQL server, right, where it will keep the data. But is that the one, or because here the problem is, right? If assume that inside the DB store someone has access, right, in the same server or same host machine, anyone can delete your data, right? Yes or no? Anyone can delete your data, or if I can say, non-Docker process can delete your data, because this is the same host machine and multiple process can run. Not only the Docker is having the whole control. Okay, so there is another way to do the same thing in a similar way. That is the Docker volume. So volume is what is happening. So Docker internally store. Docker basically has lots of file system. Okay, volume means what is happening. Docker has some file system to store the image, right? Whenever we are saying that create on volume, so it will create a volume with the name whatever we are giving to Docker, and it will keep that memory, means it will keep that volume inside its own volume folder. So any non-dockerized process which is running in the host machine cannot access that volume. So this will be completely secured and maintained by Docker, right? Okay, so this directory path is fine. As a developer, as a user, you might feel both are same, but always for a database kind of thing, always it is recommended to use the Docker volume, not use the directory path, because directory path is very error prone. Anyone can delete the data. That means you lost the data. So now let's go inside the Docker volume. Okay, now what I'll do, I'll create a volume. Docker volume create. I'll just give my vol1. Okay, so my vol1 has been created. So if I just give Docker volume ls, so it will give me that these are the volume I am having. What is this? My volume 1, and this is the DB store, right? And this is actually the local volumes. These are the local volumes I'm having. So this volume is to keep the images, right? So it stores somewhere. Now let me do one thing. I'll just inspect this my volume 1. So I'm mostly interested on my volume 1. Okay. Now Docker volume inspect my vol 1. So if you can see where actually Docker is keeping this volume, Docker itself has a var library, var leave, then Docker, then volume, this my volume hyphen data, right? It is keeping the place here, right? It is not keeping like the data DB store. Okay, DB store is the earlier volume, I believe. So DB store, it is not like that. Okay, now what I'll do, I will type cd, right? Then what I'll do, I'll show you that file location, right? You can go to that file location. Sorry, 8 minutes. Okay, You can go to that file location. Or so you were inside that docker var.lib docker.volume. So if I just to, so if I show you, if you can see inside the docker there are lots of folder. One is image, here it store all the images, right? And another is network plugins, right? Swap, trust, and there is a volume also. So docker actually create the volume inside this folder, and this is completely maintained by docker. Okay, if you are not a docker user, or you have don't you are not privileged to go inside a docker, you can't access this volume folder. Okay, now what you can do, you can, if you want to explore, you can go inside all the folder and see what is maintaining. It is basically a simple file system. Okay, now if I run the same sql, right, with my volume 1, so it is being created, right? Now if I go inside that volume, let me take a look what is happening. So if you can see, MySQL has all the data, right? It is keeping inside this folder. It is outside the container. The container is running in some pod, but this memory, this inside that volume, all the file which is created by this MySQL, it will be stored. Okay. So whenever next time any other system, any other MySQL instance is going to use, they will get all this data. Okay. Now you can drop that volume. Yes, you can drop that volume. You can actually, there is something. Okay, now let me, so there is one command, that prune, that will remove the unused volume. So what it's saying, this will remove all the local volume not used at least one container. Means if you have lots of volume created which is taking the memory, but that is not in use, no container is using that, right? So I can remove this. Okay, total reclaim page 0 could be, because this container, this running container, right, it is this MySQL container is running this, means it is being run and it is using the container, so that's what it is not allowed to delete that volume, right? But if I stop that, sorry, docker stop here. Okay, let me stop. SQL 6. So if I stop that container, then if I run that volume prune, I believe why it is in reclaim base. So I think it is container is not yet run, but it is actually mounting that. So I'll delete that image also, the container also. Let me docker hyphen, or you can manually also remove the volume. You can volume rm my vol1 volume is in use. Yeah, that's what it is not allowed. So let me do one thing, docker. I need to rmi. I need to, okay, so docker ps, what is running? SQL 5, SQL 3. So I will docker stop SQL 5, docker stop SQL 3. Now docker is having this at the volume. Now if I try to prune, no, it is not getting. So some reference is there. I have to remove that reference. So I can just remind MySQL. Yes, unable to process. Why? Must force container is using its reference ID. So there is some container still running inside the document. Let me try docker images. No images are in docker ps hyphen a. Okay, these are the excited, but this is there. So I need to just this container is still, it is showing which container is getting used, d1d. Where is the d1d? Yeah, okay, this is the images. Okay, container c53, which one is c53? This one is still running. No, it died, right? But container id is present, but it is not reclaiming it. So I think it will take some time to reclaim the thing, but after that you will able to delete that volume also. Okay, so I'll just give the one more level of data, but that might not be that you can do, or you can read more things on that. So here if you can see, the docker volume is taking the volume from its local machine, right? So it is creating the volume, but in a real system, right, you should not keep your data in the same host machine. So it is avoided. What it does, it use some another file system like Amazon S3, some NFS server, right? And Docker is allowed, right, to mention that file system with some specific driver. There might be lots of driver available, right, inside the Docker. If it is not available, their plugin is already available. Plugin will be available. You need to install that plugin driver in Docker, and you can create a volume outside of that host machine, and you can mount that location inside that host machine, and you can run your databases inside that Docker host machine containers. Okay, so this is the idea behind volume. Clear? Any question? Clear? Okay. So you can use this, right? You can you can try this with this play with Docker. So basically, what I want to explain you, if you want to run your container database, you should always separate the data, right? Either you use some volume mount in the host directory, or you use some volume, right? Actual Docker volume, right? And this Docker volume will be only maintainable by your Docker host machine, not the host machine, but it's the Docker machine, who is Docker runtime container. And you can, after the container is getting died, but your data will be still persist. Okay, so this is the outline of Docker volume. Okay, now I think this is the Docker volume, and what are the other things I need for today? Let me take a look. Okay. Okay, now let's try to do something else, or I'll start from tomorrow on that part, because now the next step is how to build a Docker image, right? How to push the Docker image to my Docker registry, Docker hub, then how to download that image, how to run that image. Okay, so I'll show you some example program. So if you can see, I think I showed you earlier, but I'll just repeat it. Right. So if you can say, this is a simple, you know, Java application. It is doing some get mapping API v1, hello from Java DC. That's all. Nothing is fancy here. Okay. And in the application properties, I think we are not giving anything. So by default, it will run in 880 port, and it will give, if you hit that API, it will give you the hello from Java DC. Now I want to make an image out of this application. How to make an image, right? So the Docker, what it says, okay, in your local system, right, you have Docker install, that is fine. Now to make an image, you need to mention or give the instruction inside a Docker file, and keep that Docker file in the main folder. So if you can see, my this project is inside the download Java DC in my system. Okay, and high level, if you can see what it is having, it is having .idea, .mavin, src target, right? What Docker is saying, keep a Docker file in the same hierarchy, don't keep inside some source folder or anything. And the Docker file name should be Docker file, D should be capital, everything should be small. Don't do any changes with this syntax in a naming convention. Ape should not be capital, it should be only Docker file. Okay, now how I can run this, I think, Docker file, right? There are lots of way we can do the things. Either we'll just take the code, then we will so if you can see, these are the instruction. I think I already explained earlier that what we are doing, we are taking the open JDK whose image is already present, right? So that's what we are using the instruction from. Okay, then what I'm saying, that okay, I'll change the directory, I'll create a new directory, that is .app. So inside Docker, I'm creating that new directory, and I'm copying the .mavin file. Inside the .mavin file, what I have, I have the actually I have a Mavin wrapper. Okay, so Mavin wrapper is helping me to download all the dependency what is required by this Java project. So I'm running dot, and then I'm copying this Mavin and pom.xml, because pom.xml is having all the dependency mentioned, right? And as I am already inside that working directory, so I'm mentioning dot slash. That means what it will do, it will first copy from the system inside that, Docker context. If you can see, Docker is creating a container whenever it is running this, you know running this Docker file. It is first creating a, container, and inside that container you are first downloading the OpenJDK 8 version. Then you are creating a working directory, that is slash app, and inside that slash app you are first copying that dot mavin from your local system to to the, to your that container. Then you are copying the mavin new pom.xml, that container. Then your mavin wrapper is now, because the jar file is there, it got the instruction what to do in the pom.xml. You can run this command, mavin new dependency go offline. It will download all the dependency which is required, right? Then if you are able to download all the dependency, then you can copy the source folder. Source is having all the things, right? Then you can use the mabini command to run that application, that is the Spring Boot run. This is a one way to do the thing using the mabini. Another way, I'll show you another way, another Docker file I'll show you. So it will be simple. So here if you can see what I'm saying, that I am not allowing Maven, or I'm not running anything on the Maven. I already have the jar file. I want to just run that jar. So this is quite simple. This is like I'm first creating that OpenJDK. I'm taking the OpenJDK from Docker Hub. Then inside that argument, or you can just, argument means you are just making one, jar file variable, and you are putting that, this location as a jar file, inside the jar file. Then you are copying that jar file to the app.jar. Means it is like that from the main system, my local system, to that Docker container, and you are renaming the jar as app.jar. I know in my target folder, right, there will be only a single jar, that is the user service. This, if this name is user service 0.0.1 hyphen snapshot.jar. So it will copy that user service 0.0.1 snapshot.jar and rename it to app.jar. Then my entry point is what, java jar hyphen app.jar, right? This is quite simple. It will run that, you know java, it will run that Java program, and you are able to see, right, what is running inside that. Okay, so these are the two way. So if you go inside that, right, I'll just give you some high level of this command. So first is from, right? So from is used to pull any images from image registry already, you know so for Java program, it will start from JDK, because as I explained, JDK will have, right, JDK will start, JDK will already have the distribution, Linux distribution, which is required, right, above to run a Linux machine. So but you can start from the JDK, because for, as a Java developer, my base image is JDK, right? So I'll take the JDK first. Okay, then it will be mostly JDK. Then what I can do, that's a command I am having, but important command is copy. What copy is doing, copy will have a, you know कहाँ से copy करना है, किधर copy करना है, right? So copy will have that source, target. Okay, We can see we have used the copy command, and the most important thing, right, you can run any argument. Okay, run this argument means in between if you want to do something. If you saw, let me show you the other one. This is not required as when you are running that images, but this is required to create the images, right? So this is the run command. So run, it is like the in between. If you want to do something, then you can give that run command. Okay, and the last two command which you need to remember the most, that is cmd. What is cmd? Cmd to run the command, right? And the entry point. Okay, what is the entry point and cmd? Let me explain you. Both are looking similar but not the same. Okay, cmd is the default thing. So whenever docker will see your image, it will run that image. After doing all the steps, right, you need to mention him what he needs to do, else it will die. So that is being communicated via cmd. And entry point is the same thing, but entry point is something different you want to do than cmd. So you can use the entry point. But from whenever from a java, you are running, you are creating one docker file, you might feel that both are same. Okay? Entry point and cmd both are same, but there is a sequence, right? Entry point will be executed first, then cmd will be executed. So in that sequence, if you give cmd or entry point, right, so other one is missing in your docker image, a docker file. So its impact will be same. So it will be the first command to run. Okay, there are lots of things. So if you go the docker.io, and if you see that what are the other instruction in docker, there are lots of things for other application also you can run, but mostly these are the important command you will go through. All right, throughout your, I think, development life cycle. Okay, there might be 2 to 3 more things, right? You can you might interface, but this is the thing. Okay, so this is the docker file is done. Now how to create that image? So to create that image, what you need to do, right? If you are able to see my screen, I don't know, I can make it large. You want to see? So what I'll do, I'll first clear it. And what I need to go inside that. First of all, let me go inside the java dc. Okay, you can see the docker file. What I'll do, I need to type docker build dot. Okay, and if I give a tag, hyphen tag, what I'm mentioning here, that I'll create an image, right? Dot means the from the current directory. So docker will find the docker file in the current directory, and my image name should be manus0801. This is the java dc name of the image, and this is the version or tag 1.0.9. If I type this, what docker will do, docker will run all the steps one by one. Okay, and it will actually, if you can see, load metadata from this library openjdk. Okay, then it is taking the openjdk, right? Openjdk 8 it is taking, right? I think it will be a lengthy process because OpenJDK, after the OpenJDK run, it will copy that Maven, then it will run all the dependency. Let's see what it does. And in the log you can see that how many steps are there. So there are 6 steps, and this is the first steps is going. So 1 out of 6 is running first. Okay. Yeah. It is running the next step. This Mapinio dependency go offline. It will take, I think, huge time. Let's see how much time it takes. So you can say this is all is being downloaded, right? But the best practice is, right, you should not use this step, right, to create the images, because Maven dependency go offline. That means you have only the code, and from that code you are trying to do everything. You are first downloading the dependency, you are actually creating the image, lots of things you are doing. First of all you are creating that jar file, creating the image, right, and you are giving that cmd to run from the Maven, right. But this is not the ideal use case. Most of the company, how they do, they have their own Jenkins pipeline, right. That Jenkins pipeline will create the build, because build might have lots of steps, right. It might have run the test cases and other scan, other vulnerability check, everything is doing. So after, finally there will be one jar file, and this docker file should start from jar file. So the thing what I show you the on the other application, right, that is the ideal way to do the thing, right. But this is a use case where I'm just trying to show you that you don't have anything, you don't have the compile, you have just the code, right. From that code you can create the docker file to create the docker image. But the ideal way should be, you should create the docker image from your jar file. So if I run this it will be very quick. Let me show you once. Let it run. What's the folder name? Download user service. Sorry. Oh, sorry, Java DC अंदर. Okay. Now if I run that docker command. Okay, it is not there. Docker build hyphen. Now tag will be 0801 user 1.0.8. If you can see, it is also running. Done. So you have you have created the image. It's too quick because you no need to do the compile and download everything. So jar was ready. You would just use that jar. You just downloaded that, OpenJDK, and you just mix those two and created it. Now if you see, right, I'll just show you in my local. I can see that image. So hanged. I think it hanged for the other side. If I show you Docker images, so in my local system you will see this minus 0801 1.0.8 is there, right? It is created of 137 MB. Okay, now I have created the image locally, right? Now this application will, I can run it because it needs a, so this application is, we will discuss later, because this is using the MongoDB and Redis, right? So it will be a, big example. We need to do something else. We need to have a MongoDB cluster, we need to have a Redis cluster, and we need that, all that connection. So it will fail, but I'll just show you that if I run this image, right, what is happening. Docker run, right, -d, or I will not use the -d, I can use run, right, and I'll use that -0801 user 1.0.8. I'll just write this, right? So let's see what is happening. Docker is too busy now. It's still downloading. It will take some time, and because of that download, I think Docker server is getting very busy, so it is not allocating the thread for this Docker run. But if I stop this, can I stop this? No, I can't. I think Control X, Control C. I need to direct, no. It is also not allowed. Okay, if you can see, the Spring application started running, right? So but it will not run, definitely it will not run, because it needs some databases connection. It will give the exception for that, right? It is not, my database is not, I probably it is not, it doesn't know what are the databases, right? But in that way you can build your image, right? You can run that image. And to just the last thing, I'll just show you, let it complete. The last thing what I'll just show you, that I can share that image also. So what you need to do, like docker pull, you can use docker push command, right? I can use minus 0801. I am having this profile, and I'll just push that image of user 1.0.9 0.8, sorry. Okay, so if I do this, this is the docker push, will push that image to my directory. Okay, and if you notice that it is saying that something is already mounted from other project. What is happening? As I told you, docker image is a complete binary file system. So suppose in your images you are using some jdk8, or you are using some file which is already available to other project, other images, so it will not actually repeat that layer actually, if it is available. So suppose in my minus 010808 docker hub, there is already lots of projects present, and it can see that book one auth service is having some images which you are trying to push the same. So while pushing it, it understood that only the difference is like 30 something, 30 1.58 MB, though my image size is 137 MB. But docker did some optimization. It say that okay, you have already 100 MB, you have common data, so I'll take from my local images which already you have, right? You have pushed earlier, so you don't need to push the all 137 MB data, right? Because docker images are a lots of binary, it is just overlay one after one. So if any lower layer binary is already available, it will take that. Okay, now it is getting pushed. Now I'll just show you. I think my laptop charge is 1%, it will die now, but in the meantime I'll just quickly show you my docker hub. Just if you can see, 2 minutes ago I have uploaded that image, right? This image is, so docker helped me to share that image also, right? Now I can pull that same image to anywhere, right? So if I go inside my docker play with docker window, right, I can just docker pull. See, it is actually downloading the images, right? And it is if I show docker images, it is there. So you can imagine that it was earlier in my system how quickly docker is helping me to transport that file, right, to anywhere. And I can run just docker run, then I can run these images also. Okay, okay. I think that will be all for today. So whatever we have covered, we just understood all the basics of Docker. and we just covered the Docker volume, right? How to what the file system right, it is being used, and I think today we just so that how to create an image, right? But we will do in in detail later. We will create a full-fledged application which is having Mongo databases, Redis databases, and how to do the images and how actually the big system works. But that is fine. But today we just explain that one standalone Java application, how you can run that Java application, right? So how you can create that images, how you can share that images, how you can run that images. Okay. Now tomorrow I think it will be very interesting thing. Two to three topics I'll cover, right? And that will be sufficient. And after that you can explore more because Docker is a very huge topic, but this will be sufficient for a developer understanding. For a start, you can just explore this thing. So next, our target is I can understand that okay, Docker is running. So in if I can assume that in my Docker host I am running two containers, but how one container talk to each other? So should I use localhost to talk to each other? Because suppose in my local system, if I have a MongoDB which is being, which is running in assume that 8081 port, and I'm running one, Java application. I want to use that MongoDB. So what I'll type? I'll type just localhost, right, 8081, right. That means my MongoDB can be used, but is the same thing is happening in a Docker system? Because inside a Docker engine, if I run two container, one is Java, another is assume that Mongo, then how my Java application will connect to that Mongo, right? So that is called Docker networking, right? How one container will talk to each other, right? And what is the mechanism to do it, right? It will give you very good understanding of the whole networking thing, right? How the networking happens, and uh, it is very good, right? Well designed in Docker. So I'll explain that part, and I think finally the last thing, last two things will be Docker Compose, right? Compose is another thing where you can, for a big application, if you have lots of container, right? Instead of running this Docker run command individually, you can write a simple YML file to configure all the container details. Then you can just write that, you can just run that, YML file using some CLI option, CLI command, so all the container will be up, right? That is the Docker Compose. And the last thing is Docker Swarm services. Swarm services will give you the idea that whatever we are doing right now, or whatever we will explain till the Docker Compose, everything you are talking about the single host machine. But in a real use case, you will be never use a single host machine. If you go to the production, if you are working for a company, there will not be a single host machine. एक सर्वर में आप सारे चीज डिप्लॉय नहीं करोगे, right? So how Docker can create a cluster, right, out of assume that five host machine, and how it will manage the container. So for that we have a Docker Swarm. The Docker Swarm is another type of orchestration. You might heard another orchestration Kubernetes. Docker Swarm is also similar to Kubernetes, but we will explain that Docker Swarm. So it will help you to go to the next layer and understand that how Kubernetes works. Okay, this will be a few things. So let's connect tomorrow, or I think 7 a.m. is too early for me. It is too early. So let's see how it works. Let me stop that recording.